WEBurlesque, the podcast. I am your host, Viktor Devonne, and I am in the middle of Wall Street in a studio. Special thanks to Trinity Starlight for hooking us up with this location. Today, I am doing a marathon of interviews and conversations with people in the burlesque industry. The first I have here is Kita St. Cyr. Now, Kita, I've known you for a couple of years, and I think I met you in Coney Island.
That's probably true.
I think so, and I know that you've done a lot. You've done a lot of hosting, you've done a lot of producing, and you've done a lot of performing over the years. How long has that been?
I started kind of futzing around the burlesque scene in 2008. I started officially performing in 2009.
What were you just doing, just like standard striptease, or were you already?
When I started, I was just go-go.
Okay.
And then I was doing pretty straightforward, like really bad classic neo mashup. My first act was the Stray Cat Strut, and I was a cat.
Well, I mean, surprise.
I did have a litter box.
See?
A glitter box.
Well.
And totally
so to speak.
made a mess all over the place with glitter, and I humped a curtain. It was beautiful.
Did you have an instructor or someone that helped get you into everything?
Yeah, my first class was at School of Burlesque.
Okay.
Dr. Lucky was teaching a character development class, which I think is really, really helpful. But it's probably, I think I took it in the wrong order.
Okay.
I think I should have taken the essentials classes first.
Fair.
Because I didn't really have a great sense of movement.
Okay.
I knew who my cat was.
Yeah.
But I didn't know what my cat was doing.
Did you have any dance training or any acting training?
Yeah, I grew up in salsa clubs, so I had that. But that's kind of, it wasn't easily transferable to the whole classic rockabilly thing I thought I was going to be doing at the time.
Yeah, that's the Brian Setzer. It's his other, yeah.
Well, it's the Stray Cats, which is Brian Setzer Orchestra before it
yes, like 80s Brian Setzer.
Exactly.
Yeah. How did you first discover what burlesque was as an entity?
I was a retro pinup model in my teen years.
Oh.
So I was doing.
Well, then wait. Let's rewind this a little bit. How did you fall into that?
Randomly, completely randomly. When I think I was 16. My sister heard about this party. I think she heard about it from MySpace or something.
Fair.
The artist that would become known as Doe Deer, who now runs Lime Crime Makeup.
Okay.
She was throwing a party at the old knitting factory. It was called Masquerade.
Okay.
Yeah, so she was throwing this party, and it was all like goth, electro, steampunk, very cute. I think Voltaire was one of the headliners. It was one of those parties, you know? And she was looking for go-go girls. So I sent a picture in, and I'm like, I love dancing. I want to be a go-go girl. And then everyone I met there happened to have a Model Mayhem profile. So the next day I was like, I'm going to find everyone. And I found their MySpace pages, and then I went on Model Mayhem, and I found everyone there, and I signed up. And back then it was a process. You had to apply. Some people got denied, so I was really excited. Oh, wow. Yeah. I was like, wow, I'm a model now.
Yes, that's all it takes.
Exactly. It's a Model Mayhem profile. I was 16.
Wow.
So.
Well, when you're doing stuff like that, I mean, it's a potentially precarious situation. It sounds like it's like a Lifetime movie waiting to happen. Did you ever find yourself in situations that were either a little sketchy or that you were fortunate to have someone who kept you safe or in check?
I was not smart, but I was very lucky.
Okay.
So I did a lot of things that now, being 31, I look back and I'm like, oh my God, why didn't someone stop me? I went out and stayed over at a photographer's house in Tacoma, Washington, and we'd never met before, and it just turned out that he was fine, and he was great, and a very talented photographer, and sometimes I still use those pictures in my Throwback Thursdays, but not the smartest decision to make when you're a kid.
I mean, and something to be argued that it's those times when you're allowed to be so impetuous, as it were, but when we put ourselves in other people's hands, then it gets a little scary.
Yeah, but I was totally fine the whole time, and everything worked out great. And
good.
I'm really grateful for all of the years of modeling. I started out doing alternative modeling, really bad attempts at Suicide Girls. And then I realized, I don't fit this genre so well. This isn't me. And I discovered pinup, and I learned how to do all my own styling. And that was really, my bread and butter. I was doing like hot rod shows and rockabilly festivals.
Okay, so you were basically like a show model.
Yeah. I was in a bunch of different hot rod magazines. Like, I never got super popular, but it was enough to like get some really cute pictures and feed my ego. And I met some really cool people. It's how I met my ex-husband. It's how I met a lot of my friend group. So.
Did you use the name Kita St. Cyr while you were doing all of that?
I started out as Kita Panda, and then I changed to Kita St. Cyr.
Why Panda?
I like pandas.
Oh, fair.
They're cute.
I get it. So you have a lot of tattoos that I can see, and the audience, of course, cannot. But did you have, and they're very pin-up-y style, and they're very, I don't know, evocative of like that aesthetic. Has that aesthetic always, like when you were a kid before, like, I don't know, I think a lot of people's first exposure depends on where they come from or where they're born or what music is popular at the time.
Yeah.
So what was your first influence into that?
So I grew up in salsa clubs in the 90s. Basically, my mom was a salsa teacher. So we were always in the nightclubs. And there was a lot of overlap between people who were interested in Latin music and people who were interested in the swing revival that was happening.
Right.
So I saw that aesthetic growing up a lot, but I didn't have a word for it.
Okay.
But it kind of just always, in the back of my head, was influencing a lot of what I thought of as beauty and glamour. And then when I went to prom, I was like, I'm going to do that. I want to do like, basically I wanted to be Jessica Rabbit, like a gothy Jessica Rabbit. I didn't have the words for it.
Oh, sure.
So I went to a hairstylist and I said I wanted to do old fashioned. And they made me look like Florence Henderson.
Ooh.
And
like Brady Bunch
Brady
Florence
Bunch
Henderson?
Florence Henderson. And I was so upset. I'm like,
imagine.
It was
Yeah, I don't know. It's, you know what it is it's that short crop up top and then those little things that happen at, I'm not
like
sure.
It would be a shag.
Okay.
It's like almost Joan Jett, but then make it not fashion.
But make it mom. Yeah.
Joan Jett, make it mom.
Yeah.
But luckily they didn't cut my hair, they just styled it. So I went home and styled it. I undid it all and brushed out all of the hairspray. In between having a temper tantrum about how I'm not going to prom, I fixed my own hair, and that was kind of my first experience with attempting a 40s Hollywood glamour thing. When I say I grew up in those clubs, I mean I was a kid.
You were a kid.
I should not have been there. They were still allowed to smoke.
Were they salacious? Were they just sort of?
No, everything was really great. It was very like family feeling, you know, because we were there every week. Like my mom used to bring us to Gonzales y Gonzales down in the East Village, like near NYU, and the house band there was basically our extended family.
Okay.
Like we're not blood related, but because we got so close. Yeah. So yeah.
And so you heard about the School of Burlesque through other models that you were working with, or?
I heard about burlesque kind of through the pinup scene.
Sure, I mean the aesthetic is there.
There's a lot of overlap in the aesthetic, and like everyone's.
Dita Von Teese alone is very is like quintessential pinup.
Yeah. And I bought a lot of Dita's books, or the book that was at it.
You bought a lot of them.
I bought like 20 of the same book. Well, any magazine she was in, you know.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, then on my 21st birthday, I was like, I'm going to explore this burlesque thing. So I got all my friends together, we got dressed up, we went to Dove Parlor for Absinthe. Oh. And then we went to a show.
Okay.
We went to Public Assembly, which had Monday Night Burlesque at the time.
Do you remember who you saw?
Pearl Noir was the first performer. Gigi, of course, was in all the shows back then. Gigi LaFemme, Nasty. It was a really great, beautiful show. Nice. A lot of performers that I've gotten to know better over the years that like I'm friends with now.
It's so funny sometimes seeing people that you're now colleagues with. Mm-hmm. So Dr. Lucky helped you create, because it was an act development, so you created the Cat Act. Mm-hmm. Where did you perform it?
Slipper.
Oh, the old one. The old one.
The one where if you didn't show up like at 6:30, you weren't getting a table with good silence.
So, I mean, I guess it was a showcase. Do you remember who else was in your class?
The Elsbeth.
Fabulous.
Yeah, we debuted together. And she did this amazing pink fan act. Mm-hmm. Like, She had these giant pink feather fans. She was dancing to a song by Devil Doll.
Okay.
It was perfect. It was an act that I think she held on to for a while. I think I did that cat act once more and threw it out.
How did you incorporate the glitter box in your act?
I think I ended in it.
Okay. And just spraying the glitter everywhere?
Yeah, kind of like, this is my martini glass. It's
Fair.
not a glitter box.
Was it an actual litter box, or was it like a fashioned?
No, I think it was like a cardboard box.
Yeah. We're on a budget.
Exactly.
For a sec. You rose into the ranks as a producer as well. When did you start saying this is something that I actually want to be behind the scenes on, and how much do you regret that?
So the first show that I really produced was Rhinestone Follies.
Yeah.
We had, I want to say, a 3-year run in a couple of different venues.
Okay.
We started at R Bar.
Okay.
And it was before there was really a regular show at R Bar. I have this habit of going places and like hanging out and being like, this place is so cute, but it's so dead in here. You know what they need? And then like creating a package and sending it to management and being like, this is what I can do for you. And it worked for R Bar, but also there were just a lot of pieces in place that were really good. Beelzebub and Hazel Honeysuckle both helped out with production a lot. It was totally a team effort. And we had a structure that we followed for every show.
What was that?
Every show, there were the 3 of us doing a solo act. There was a host who, you know, it was Albert for a long time, Albert Cadabra, and then it was Bastard Keith and Nelson Lugo pitch hit a couple of times. And then we had a newer performer, we had an experienced performer, and we had a variety performer.
Okay, it's a good blend.
Yeah.
So what, was this monthly, or was this?
It was bi-weekly.
Bi-weekly.
Fortnightly.
So every 2 weeks.
Every 2 weeks.
Every 2 weeks.
And it was great. You know, we worked on costumes for our group act together, and they were these large, feathery rhinestone costumes. And I don't remember whose idea it was. It was probably mine, because it was so like, why are you doing this? But we ended up doing a living social deal, which is what Groupon is now.
Right.
And so we really expanded our audience through that, because people saw, wow, feathers, showgirls, let's do that, and started coming out to the show. And it was really great, and I maintained a relationship with R Bar for a while until they shut down. I used to do porn karaoke there also.
What is porn karaoke?
Oh my gosh. Porn karaoke is where the majority of the pull quotes in my press kit came from. Because it got so much press play. But basically, I went out to Montreal, and there was this show. It was already happening. It was already established. It was called Porn Karaoke that this guy named Sherwin does. And basically, he runs porn clips with no sound, and he plays music in the background, and people will come up and improv the dialogue that is happening in the porn. And sometimes it's like, you know, it's boring missionary straight porn, and sometimes it's like Spider-Man parody porn, you know? Yeah.
Just to mix it up.
Yeah, sometimes pterodactyls fucking. And people go up and just improv dialogue. And in Montreal, it was hilarious and really funny and really, like, everyone was game to play.
Sure.
In New York, we hadn't even done one. I just came up with a concept, and for some reason the press really liked it. So, like, I think it was the Daily News that picked it up first, and then it ended up on New York One and EPN, and it was kind of all over the place, and it's really funny. So we got this huge crowd to come out. None of them wanted to participate.
They just wanted to watch.
They just wanted to watch, which is like, it's a very New York thing, right? Like, people are kind of too cool to have any fun. But it made me really want to change the way the show was done. But by the time I had made that change, people were already like, well, this is another thing I'm going to enjoy because I'm there to watch.
Yeah.
So it was very short-lived. But I got a really cool clip from New York One of Pat Kiernan trying to delicately explain the concept of porn karaoke in his super sweet Canadian way. debut show or a debut slot, but not too long after. It was a few months.
Yep.
I had already
How many acts? You already thrown away the cat act, or?
I threw away the cat act. Yeah, I was on this giant Carmen Miranda headdress act that I had connected with a legend at the time who was not officially recognized as a legend, but she was a performer in burlesque in the 60s.
Okay.
And we lived in the same neighborhood, and she was doing costuming at the time, and it was not necessarily the best relationship for either of us, but we worked together a lot, and she made me a lot of costumes and was kind of trying to guide my career in a direction that I didn't necessarily want it to go.
I see.
Yeah.
Trying to live through you.
A little bit, sometimes we live vicariously through the people that we love. So there was a little bit of that happening, and she kind of gave me a fruit hat thing, and anyone who knows me knows that's kind of a pet peeve of mine.
In what way? In terms of the...
It's an oversimplification of a culture.
Yeah.
And which is not even something that I can't claim to be guilty of myself. I did a tiki act for years, but I don't know, the fruit hat is why?
Do you get a lot of questions? Do you get a lot of quote unquote, what are you? Or where do you come from?
I used to.
Okay.
Less now. I think I'm pretty loud about my Puerto Ricanness now. But yeah, I used to play into the racial ambiguity a lot. I was very about the Polynesia thing when I first started, because it was my first exposure to an archetype of classic womanhood that looks like me. So women in the 50s were not typically glorified for being very curvy and having dark skin, but that was
because even the women of color, they were thin.
Yeah.
Josephine Baker, who's the quintessential woman of color burlesquer.
Yeah.
Thin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you look at the exotica genre, though, those women are curvy. They have full busts. They have full booties.
Because they're meant to look like island girls or natives or many other words that are far less appealing.
Yeah. And to me, I was like, well, I want to be this classic 50s performer, I want to evoke that era, and the way that would be the easiest for me to do it would be to play into this archetype of the island girl, which is not necessarily wrong. I am from an island, and the culture of that island was part of the amalgam that is portrayed in Tiki and Exotica.
Yes, because it's not really one culture.
Yeah,
it's actually a blend of...
It's Asian, and it's Latin, and it's Polynesian, and that concept...
That's because a bunch of white people mixed it up.
Yeah, totally. It's because the military people, the people who had served in World War II and after in the military, were looking for some form of nostalgia from their service. And it's when you think about it, that's really fucked up.
Yeah.
They're looking to romanticize an era where they were conquering people.
Yeah.
That's terrible.
Yeah, because of things, even as far as back as Mutiny on the Bounty or South Pacific.
South Pacific is the big one.
We have a lot of association with, even the film Hawaii, we have a lot of association with the white man. It's sort of like Taming of the Shrew.
Yeah.
With an island, a proud island girl or a meek island girl who needs to be trained.
A subservient island girl who needs a white savior. Yeah. So, but that whole concept, the idea that I fit into this, and this was a thing that existed in the 50s, and because I want to be a classic performer, that's what I should be. I played into that for a long time, and I don't think necessarily it was even to my detriment. It just ultimately I took a step back, and I'm like, you know what? I cannot be a person who's proud of myself and proud of my history as a Puerto Rican and look at this amalgam of stereotypes and feel like it's okay and present it to a mostly white audience.
Because then they think it's still relevant. They're not getting the retro effect necessarily.
And they're looking at it and it's well, she says it's okay, so it's okay. And it's no, I say it's okay because that's all I have to latch on to.
Do you feel a responsibility as a woman of color to represent all women of your color?
Totally, yeah. I think if you are a woman of color and you have a mostly white audience and you don't feel that responsibility, you need to examine some things. 100%. I don't think that I should have to represent every woman of color, but I think it's important that as a brown woman, I make it clear that like I can be sensual and soft and flirty and happy and silly, and that I don't have to be like the strong brown woman all the time.
Well, it's difficult because we as burlesque performers, our stage time is limited to at most, let's be real, 5 to 6 minutes, probably closer to 3. And the idea of being all of those things for one act is really difficult, because if someone sees you only once and sees you portraying like a soft side or a not quite subservient, but not as assertive, like allowing yourself that moment. It's just one scene in your whole play.
Yeah.
But they may associate that with your whole thing. And that's difficult. That's rough. And that also can be difficult as a queer person too.
Yeah, yeah. It's super hard. I mean, I don't wear my queerness on stage at all.
Okay.
Which is not necessarily by design or for any reason. It's just I don't,
How do you associate wearing your queerness on stage?
I don't know. The rainbow act?
Just rainbow act.
No, I have no idea how to do it. I know that I present as straight because most of my relationships that I'm in long term are with men.
Okay.
But
that's if they know you off stage.
I don't know.
Okay. I mean, reasonable. As someone who watches and has booked you and has watched you while you work, I don't see you as someone who works a crowd in only one direction.
Yeah.
And admittedly, I've mostly booked you in queer spaces, but I booked you in queer spaces that are mixed.
Yeah.
So
I think I don't necessarily wear straightness on stage either.
There's sort of an aloof.
Yeah.
That is, speaking of Jessica Rabbit, there's this sort of like well, if you're around, I might just tease you, but I'm not sticking around.
Yeah. Which is perfect for me, I think. But I'm not necessarily forming my acts around the male gaze necessarily. I think I'm just trying to make pretty things.
Is that important to you, to always be pretty? do you have acts where you... I frequently refer to it as giving yourself permission to be ugly or something like that.
Yeah.
Because especially in the neo-burlesque scene, there's... I think an expectation of a lot of performers to be gritty for the sake of being gritty, because that shows that they aren't some I don't know, it gives weight. Like if they're not some frivolous showgirl, then that means they're serious, and then they can do acts where they're just covered in blood or dirt or grime, and that's all well and good, but it doesn't always come across as authentic.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I was at a show over the summer that, first off, I paid to be at this show. I didn't pay to be insulted.
Okay.
But like, I really enjoyed the show. It was really it was a lot of neo, it was a lot of gritty, it was a lot of stuff that I just don't do on stage because it's not me, it's not genuine, it's my experience. But there were a few times where the host made comments about like, oh, well, if you're expecting feathery headdresses, you came to the wrong place because this is art. And I'm like, I don't think that me spending 30 hours burning myself with a hot glue gun to make a feathery headdress is any less art than you pulling a tampon out and throwing it on stage or whatever is happening, Like, we do different things, and that's okay. And it's totally okay to like different things.
Yeah. It's funny is I usually find, and this is a generalization, audience, but I usually find that it's more a neo looking down on the classic and the classic looking down on the neo.
Exactly. Classic performers don't care.
They don't.
It feels a little bit like...
And of course there's going to be generalizations. There are going to be people who are like, really? You came in that? And I have felt that way before. Like one of my signature acts is me in a terry cloth robe. Yeah. And I've been backstage with people in fabulous outfits and I'm putting on my pajamas and I'm like, it'll all make sense really soon, I promise. And then the show happens and everyone I've never ended a show with Digital Get Down and not felt part of the troupe, felt part of the group.
Yeah. And it's such a great act.
Thank you. That's on me. Yeah. I'm saying that to myself that I'm not good enough with all these fabulous glamazons. The glamazons aren't saying that to me. So I think that's something that it's a defense mechanism for a lot of.
I think it is because a lot of people in burlesque, a lot of us were misfits in high school. And I think it's a lot of that, of like the misfits punching up at the jocks and being like, well, just because you're pretty doesn't make you better than me. It's like, you're right.
You're right.
Totally. You're right. I'm not better than you. But like also being covered in blood and doing that doesn't make you a better artist than me necessarily.
Right.
And I think
it still has to be a good act.
Yeah.
It still has to. You can be covered in as much blood as possible, but if I don't know why you're covered in blood, no, it's not a good act.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just as if I don't know why you're in a sparkly headdress. Like the same thing.
Yeah.
If you're not carrying it, if you're not selling me on that,
Give me
I need something. I need charisma.
Some kind of narrative, even if it's an emotional narrative. Yeah. I want to feel something. I want to be moved. So, yeah.
Otherwise, you just keep it to yourself. It's so strange because a lot of burlesque is so personal, and it's one thing. I said this recently to somebody that a lot of burlesque we associate with, but it's my expression, and you can't censor me or you can't tell me how to. I'm like, yeah, but you're also an entertainer. Yeah. Like your job is also to make people entertained. It's not just masturbatory. It's not just self-gratification. Yeah. You can do that, but why are you doing it? Yeah. What's your motivation behind that? What are you grappling with that makes it so important for you not to give a fuck about your audience? Like I've seen performers who just look mad. Like Lily and Bustle and I, every once in a while, they just looked mad. They hated that audience the whole time. And I'm like, that's reasonable. And sometimes that's what works.
Yeah.
But if you're doing that, if
your act is a hate fuck.
But if every act is a hate fuck, and you're supposed to be like cheesecake, well, then what's going on?
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, I don't think necessarily it's important for me to be pretty in every act. Okay. It's just like.
What are some examples of you taking that in as
I don't know.
Being a naturally attractive woman.
Thank you.
How do you?
Yeah, I don't necessarily think that I've even made an act that is purposely not pretty.
But maybe
it's
secondary.
It's pretty is not at the top of the list for me. Like, there was one act that I'm like, this is just pretty, and it's my signature act. It's a green
dress.
Yep.
Yes.
My emerald act is all just green feathers and rhinestones, and it's just pretty, and that's the whole thing. I prance around stage like, I'm so beautiful, and that's all the act is about, is just me being so fucking gorgeous. Which I say while rolling my eyes, which you can't hear because it's a podcast.
No, that's the other thing, is that a lot of burlesque, if you're not self-aware of the ridiculousness of it all, then it is easy to sort of feel very self-important while we're, performing in dive bars. Or even beautiful stages where there's like 10 people. Yeah. It's an interesting conundrum. I want to get into a very important aspect of your career, which is fire.
Fire!
And it is a specialized skill set that you had to get not authorization, but you had to.
There's a process.
There's a process. Walk us through that process.
So I kind of stumbled into fire strangely because I was kind of knocking on the door and asking everyone who I know who does fire to teach me for a long time. And a couple of people would say yes and flake, and a couple of people were just like, nope, I don't teach that. I'm like, okay, I respect that. And that song and dance kind of went on for years, and finally I found someone to teach me very basic fire eating, and did it at a show in Coney. And Patrick at Coney was like, what are you doing? And I'm like, what? He's like, come on. So then
Patrick, the general manager.
Yeah. And like truly one of the great fire minds of our time. And so he kind of took me under his wing and started teaching me. And then I found the Floasis, which is in Bushwick. Okay. It's a fire school.
Oh. So just as there's like a trapeze school, just as there's a school where you can learn safely how to use fire.
Yeah. They have a 2-part fire safety class that you have to take if you want to get certified by the FDNY. And they teach all kinds of fire spinning, poi, fans. They do teach fire eating and breathing. There are some of the more expensive classes.
Sure, because that's more circus oriented.
Yeah, it's just a little more dangerous than spinning fire. All fire is dangerous. because it's fire.
It's fire.
But
it burns things, yeah.
Yeah. But putting it in your face is just a little more dangerous than spinning it around you.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Is it also partially because of the I don't know what you call it, but the fuel? Is it just gasoline? What's the fuel?
It's white gas.
White gas?
Yeah.
What's the difference between that and like straight up ethanol or something?
So the fuels that you're using depend on what it is that you're doing.
Okay.
So if you're eating fire, you'll use one fuel.
So so what do you call the stick with the black charred end?
That's a torch.
Torch.
Yeah.
Okay, so you have dipped that in something? Okay, so you're dipping
dipping that in your fuel, in your white gas.
Okay.
The flash point to that, the point at which it will ignite, is different than the fuel that you're breathing fire with. Okay. And depending on the venue you're in, it's different than what you're spinning fire with.
Okay.
There are different fuels for just about everything. Like the fuel that I'm used to breathing fire with, because I breathe fire outside, is different than the fuel that I have to breathe with if I'm breathing at Coney.
Okay.
I hate the fuel I have to breathe with at Coney.
Oh, really? Why is that?
I feel like shit afterwards.
Is it just smell or taste funny?
It doesn't really have a taste so much. It kind of just tastes like olive oil. But yeah, I just get a headache afterwards. It just, you just feel like shit. What I breathe with outside, it doesn't really do anything. You don't really feel it as much.
I mean, there's a few different, I've seen a few fire performers, Naughty Amos, who is a regular performer at Coney Island. They frequently have it's like a long staff with fire on both ends, and they'll sort of like baton it as it is. Yeah. I've also seen Sage perform with fire.
I'm performing with her tonight.
Oh, fabulous.
Yeah, I love her.
What did you say? Did you say I want to breathe fire? Did you say I want to rub fire all over my body? How did you decide what? Since there's so many variations, what drew to you first?
I wanted to do everything.
Okay.
I still want to do everything.
What's your most common?
I eat fire the most because it's what I learned first.
Okay.
I've been eating fire for about 5 or 6 years. I love it. There's a lot to it. I'm still learning it.
Is there a diet you have to have beforehand? You can't eat before, or
no, you can eat.
You drink?
No.
Okay.
You really shouldn't drink before you do fire. Sometimes, some people have a beer or whatever, but
doing shots and then breathing fire, not so great.
No. Because it's fire.
And it's alcohol.
It's alcohol.
Alcohol is flammable and inflammable, which means the same thing.
Face cream. It's neither a face nor a cream. Discuss. A little dairy beforehand to coat your mouth is not the worst idea. A little activated charcoal is not the worst idea. Making sure that you are really conscious of how much vapor you're putting in your mouth so that you don't get burpy afterwards.
Okay.
All of these are good things to think about. But I started with fire eating, and then I went to fans, which I wasn't super interested in fire fans at first. I was like, oh, you're just framing them, but actually there's an art form to it.
They're the metal staves, right? That have the little...
Yeah, they're there's 4
candle
or
holder
5
things?
staves, and it has 5 wicks at the end.
Okay.
And there is an art and science to fire fans, and actually it's a lot of fun and it's really beautiful, and it helps you wrap your mind around the visual vocabulary to other props. So I like that I started with those. I fell in love with a prop called Levy Wand.
What's that?
It's like the magician's cane, where there's what looks like fishing wire, and you're spinning it around, but it's on fire. And that's what I do my night circus act with. And I kind of just spin it for fun because it's pretty, and it's...
And you can't see the lines, it just looks like you're just controlling...
Yeah. And, it's funny, I fell in love with this book, Night Circus, and kind of the imagery behind the world, and I wanted to create an act based on it. And I still feel like I've been touring this act for a while. I've been developing it. I've been bringing it to shows. I brought it to a couple of festivals. It's an act that really gets a great reaction from the audience, and it's really impressive, but I feel like it's still not done. because there's just so much that happens within the book in terms of like, there's a fire and it turns all these different colors. I'm like, man, I really want a rainbow fire. And I know how to do it technically, but I just haven't been able to execute it on stage at all. But yeah, that act is really where I've been putting a lot of my energy in terms of choreographing a fire number. And, you know, I workshopped it in Coney with Patrick multiple times, and there were times where I was just running 5 seconds of the act. He's like, nope, do it over. 5 seconds at a time. And that's a big part of why it's so tight, because everything matters.
Yeah, well, because you're also stripping
during
that act. So, I mean, you have music that's playing. It's to a track. So there's a finite amount of time. So even if the audience doesn't know what your cues are, you still have the possibility of the act being over before you're ready.
Yeah.
How do you choreograph, especially in what I assume is close enough living quarters where you don't set things on fire while you rehearse? Although you can always rent space or what have you. But how do you choreograph fire, which is itself something improvisational, although technical, with something like stripping or with choreography?
I run it dry first. I don't light anything. I don't dip any fuels, and I try to time it based on what's possible while it's dry. And then when I'm able to do it somewhere safe, like at Coney or at Floaces, then I'll light and I'll run the choreography as I have it, and it always changes without fail, because the way that the fire behaves is just, it does what it's going to do. And it's not that it's unpredictable, it's just that you don't always think about things like, well, when you first light it, it's a lot bigger and it's going to want to stay lit for longer than you expect. And maybe you can't do this one move while it's first lit, and so you have to move things around. It's, you know, you just get used to it after a while.
You have a good sense of, at this point when you're creating an act, of knowing probably where the fire is going to be. Like, you have a good muscle memory, for lack of a better word for that.
Yeah.
When you are performing at certain venues, obviously you can't bring fire.
Yeah.
So there are some acts that you just straight up cannot do. But you also have variations to allow for acts that you have that still aesthetically work, still have a beginning and an ending without fire.
Yeah.
How do you replace the fire element? Is it just with, I mean, it probably depends per act, but do you replace it with a different accessory? Do you change it with different choreography? How do you?
Sometimes I change everything, like with my night circus act, which I brought to White Elephant.
You did?
Okay. There's no fire in Rock Bar, obviously, so I bring my daytime levy wand, and I still do the levy wand stuff. But
still, it's really cool.
Thanks. Maybe it looks cooler because the fire's not illuminating the string. I don't know. But it turns into a striptease, basically a striptease with a levy wand, and I wear more clothes.
Fill my time.
Yeah. For Starfire, which basically is not even a fire act anymore. I started choreographing my Starfire number as a fire number, and I almost never perform it with fire.
And this is based on the Teen Titans character.
Yeah. I have an LED staff now that it lights up green and pink, which is, green is Starfire's color, pink is mine. And I spin that, and, the rest of the costume lights up. I have a light up butt crack, as per Sweet Pea's recommendation. And it just works. There are some acts that I just can't do. I have an act to a song called Iron that I do not do unless I know I can do fire in the venue safely, because it's a dragon staff. There's a lot of fire.
Fair.
I have a couple of fire fan acts that's like, that's never going to see a burlesque show. It just doesn't.
But then you get to do, you said tonight you're going off to an event where you are able to do some more of that.
Yeah.
You are both a burlesque performer and a fire performer. Sometimes those intersections meet.
Yes.
But it doesn't have to.
Yeah.
So when you're doing firework, there also may not be any strip involved. because it's its own skill set.
Yeah, like I was at New York Renaissance Fair for an entire season breathing fire. There's kids there.
Sure.
I'm not taking my clothes off. All those skirts and bodices.
I know, like, that's a lot. That's a lot of
it's exhausting.
figuring that out. Although since you have so much clothes, actually, if there was like a spark, it's easy to like put it out. You just throw an overskirt over it.
Yeah, and it's all natural fiber, so it's safe.
One of the fire elements that you do is fire tassels.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about how that came to be?
Yeah, Satan's Angel, my fire mom, my burlesque mom. She's based in California. She's a burlesque legend, and I have wanted to study with her for years and years and years. I took a class with her, I think at BHoF. It's probably at BHoF, where she taught like 15 different ways to remove a stocking and a glove. And I'm like, yes, this is what I want. I want to do like the classic things in unexpected ways. And I had just been following her for a long time, and she trains one fire queen, one person who's sanctioned to do fire tassels per area. And there was already one in New York with Bambi Galore. She lived up here. And so I had reached out to Bambi. I'm like, I really want to do this one day. She's like, cool. And then Bambi moved.
Yeah.
And
she's now in like the DC.
Yeah, I think she's in Baltimore. And she just had a baby.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so that opened up.
It opened up.
A franchise in New York.
Yeah, and Betty Blackheart was also in town, and she's also a
from
fire
Helsinki.
queen. Yeah, from
Yeah,
Helsinki.
it's a lovely woman.
She's so great.
Yeah.
So I met her at a show, and I was like, hey, I'm thinking about getting in touch with Angel. Like, I do fire eating already, and I'm a tassel twirler. I do burlesque. What do you think? She's like, yeah, do it. You never know. Do it. So I reached out and sent Angel this like long fangirly message, and I'm like, I took a class with you at BurlesqueCon. It wasn't BurlesqueCon, it was BHop. So of course of everything, she read that and she laughed, and she's like laughing my ass off. I never taught at BurlesqueCon. I'm like, oh, maybe it was BHop. I don't know. I definitely took your class, dude. And so she called me and we spoke a bunch. Like, we just instantly were talking for hours, and I had this immediate rapport. And she's like, all right, so here's what you need to send me. She like auditioned me online a little bit, and I was super nervous. I have never practiced tassel twirling as much as I did before sending her a video of me tassel twirling, you know, which is crazy. I've been doing burlesque for a long time.
I mean, it's just part of it. Some folk, and a lot of people actually wear tassels and they don't twirl them. Like a lot of times it's just the aesthetic or the look of it.
Yeah. But like, I pride myself on being a pretty good tassel twirler and being able to do the one and the other
tricks.
in all the different directions. So, you know, I auditioned basically. And
for our audience, just to clarify, why is Satan's Angel the end all of you being able to do it? Why can't you?
She's the person who perfected the art form in the 60s. She's kind of just the pioneer of fire tasseling.
So is it a respect thing, or is it
kind of a respect thing? It's kind of a safety thing. It's she doesn't train many people in order to keep it something that is still highly revered. You know, if it becomes a party trick that just everyone is doing, it's not held in such high regard anymore. And so she tries to cut
She's like
down.
the grandmaster.
Yeah.
So if you want to get a black belt, you can technically like do it on your own and fuck up and maybe like, you know, break a leg.
If you want to burn your tit off, go for it. No, there are a lot of people who do a lot of different kinds of fire boob things, and her technique is very unique, and it's one that I haven't seen done anywhere else. But yeah, eventually I ended up going out to California to meet up with her, and we had a couple of days where we were practicing, and she taught me things. She said I was her fastest student. She's like, wow, you're not scared of fire at all. I'm like, no, I eat it.
You've been doing it, yeah. It's just a little lower now.
Yeah, but yeah, so now it's a thing that I do. And, you know, I adore Satan's Angel. I'm running a fundraiser for her right now because she just went through a flood while she was on tour, which every touring performer's worst nightmare.
Something happening at home while we're busy doing stuff and can't get back.
Yeah, so she lost a lot of stuff, and, you know, she's already going through some things. So the Fire Queens all got together, and we're running this GoFundMe.
How many Fire Queens are there, do you know?
Oh gosh, I don't know. Lady Monster, Betty Blackheart, Christina Haddam, Bambi, Bunny, me, Chris Harder is Fire King.
Oh.
Yeah, he does the tastical.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I know I'm forgetting some people.
I think you can go to satansangel.com though and find
Yeah.
I want to say when I first heard that it was like a rite of passage, as it were, or a specific, not even just a rite of passage, but a specific discipline that you went through with one person. I think I went to their website and I was like, oh, I know some of these people, but it is a group, it is a club, essentially.
There's like 10 or fewer of us.
Is she still training people?
I don't think so.
So are you one of the last?
I'm one of the last. I think.
Does she give permission?
Bunny might be the last.
Bunny
galore.
Okay.
She does the 7 tassels. So she does her butt. She does her boobs. I think she has one on the vortex, and I think there's a belly button one.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
It's a lot. 7 tassels.
Are you allowed to teach?
I wouldn't if I were. I think Betty Blackheart teaches.
Okay.
I think there are teachers in Europe, but I'm not about it. Sometimes I share some knowledge about fire eating.
Mm-hmm.
Specifically, I only do that with other women of color.
Mm.
Yeah, but just because I feel like I want to see us everywhere. But yeah. Otherwise, it's like teaching is a very specified skill set.
It is, and just because you know how to do something doesn't mean you know how to relate that to other people. Because you're relating it to students who are coming from all different backgrounds and all different personality types, and some of those people are not willing to learn. Yeah. And some people, and not even just willing, some of them are not capable of learning. Because there are some people who it's not for them.
I feel pretty strongly that everybody probably wants to do fire. Every single person has seen a fire performance and been like, that's cool, I want to do that, Somewhere
I'm very content watching it from afar.
Well, a lot of people.
I know. I mean, you know what it is I wish I could. Yeah. Like there's a part of me that watches that and I'm like, oh, wouldn't it be so cool if I had that capacity? I know I don't. And it's not because I couldn't. I know that I shouldn't. Yeah. Because I'm the laziest gal in town. Are you? I just know, what it is it's because it's so intensive, mm-hmm. and because I have respect for it as what it is. Yeah. I know I'm good. I know it's better in other people's hands. Yeah. But there are a lot of people who don't know that and who are like, I want to learn fire. And sometimes they get in touch with me like, I want to learn fire. And usually I direct them to the Floasis. Mm-hmm. Do it safely. Do it here where other people are doing it. But now I kind of just like yawn. I'm like, yeah, of course everyone wants to learn fire. But like, there's that like, I'm going to learn how to do this and I'm going to do it everywhere because it's going to be a trick in my basket. And it's not that. And if you're not called to it and you're kind of just like frivolously playing with it, you can hurt yourself or hurt other people. And even if you're not doing that, like it's kind of a waste of time for me to. Yeah. Why would you spend your energy in someone who's not gonna, be at least as good as you? No, it's not that. Just like, if you're not passionate about it, pick up singing. Yeah, there's so many things. Great. So many things. And there's so many. Juggle. And even if you want to mix it in with burlesque, there's so many ways to add extra skill sets into burlesque. Mm-hmm. I mean, we know singers who also burlesque, so they sing in burlesque. Yeah. We know jugglers who also then, or contortionists, or people who actually have the classic clowning down, like the actual skill sets there. Yeah. Burlesque is the medium, it's not the end all. Yeah. So. And I think that's what's really exciting about burlesque right now is that there's so much burlesque and variety. Mm-hmm. There are a lot of singers who do burlesque and they're equally talented in both. Uh-huh. It's great. Yeah. You also are a host. I host. What is that? I mean, that also a specific skill set. Speaking of, I mean, not everyone should hold a microphone, let alone host their own show or somebody else's. Mm-hmm. I think sometimes hosting your own show, I don't want to say it's easier, but it's at least there's different banter than hosting somebody else's show. There's a different level of pressure. There's a different version of pressure. Yeah. And since you host both your own shows and you've hosted other shows as well, I've seen you host for Coney. How do you develop a stage persona that is Kita St. Cyr on a mic? I am very lucky that I have had a very strange sex life. Because it's most of what my hosting shtick is talking about weird shit that I've done. Which is kind of charming coming out of, it's like the Sophie Tucker effect. Mm-hmm. It's charming hearing that in a person in a glittering gown. Yeah. Like there's something. Yeah. I was very nervous for a long time because I know that it's obnoxious when there's a straight man on stage talking nonstop about his dick. Yeah. It's frustrating. It's like, I don't care. I don't want to hear about your dick. But for some reason, because I'm a goofy unicorn, me talking about weird sex stuff, I think is more funny. Yeah. You and Fancy Feast are both very good examples of that. Yeah. Where you're telling, I think, you know what, partially I think it is because you're telling stories from your perspective. A lot of male hosts, hashtag yes, most of you, when they're talking about sex, it doesn't feel personal.
Yeah.
It feels like they're talking about the sex they had with that other person.
Yeah.
Or how they feel about that other person.
They're sexing at someone.
Right, they're objectifying their own sexual acts.
Yeah.
Y'all are just telling tales.
Yeah.
It does feel different. I don't know if that counts as a double standard. I don't know if it matters if it's a double standard, because I think it's a reality. And I'm sure Shelley Watson is another good example of this, where she is coarse as fuck. And it's the Sophie Tucker effect, it's the Bette Midler effect, where sometimes it's just like, oh my god, I can't believe that I'm hearing this.
Yeah.
How do you know how far to go?
I mean, there are definitely times where I'm on stage and I'm telling a story and I'm watching the audience shift in discomfort, and I'm like, all right, so we're gonna play this as far as I can possibly do it before everyone, like, I lose them.
Yeah.
Because, like, I'm okay making people a little uncomfortable,
yeah.
because we're not used to hearing about vaginas on stage. Just the word pussy makes people uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So talking about my sexual experience.
The whole vortex.
Yeah, the vortex. Which is so funny, actually. Legally, in the language of blue laws in, like, Nashville, the vortex, I think, is the butt area, like the space around the butt crack.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it's not even that.
I mean, there's, like, I guess when you're, like, especially when your performers are, like, bending over, like, you get a front view as well, depending on how things are situated.
Yeah.
So, there's that famous photo of, I don't know when it was taken. I think it was taken in the 70s.
Of the stripper,
of the stripper in the underwear, bending over in front of the judge to prove that you couldn't, I guess, see labia.
Yeah.
Like, I guess that's what it was.
So delightful.
It's our history, people.
It is. Their comfort level. I don't mind watching them shift around in discomfort a little bit if I know that I'll be able to get them back. If I know that there's
a punchline. Yeah.
I have a button at the end, and I'm gonna pull this all together, and we're gonna be okay. But I need the audience to know that they're in capable hands.
Yeah.
If I see that I've lost them, and it's happened a couple of times, I'll wrap it up more quickly. But, like, if I'm in a room like the Way Station or Gemini and Scorpio Loft, where I'm there every single month, and I know that this is a story that's going to play well, I'm going to go at my pace. And my pace is silly, because, you know, I am, again, the camp counselor personality. I'm on stage, and I'm like, hi, everyone. We're all in this together. Yay! You know?
Which, again, that personality, they may not expect pussy jokes from someone with that.
Yeah, and I think that's what
timber.
makes it interesting, is that I'm on stage dressed like a cupcake, and I've got, like, the sparkles and the pink hair.
Which is so funny, because we expect that out of drag queens, but we don't necessarily expect that out of beautiful cisgender women, without associating sort of like, oh, why do they have to talk like that?
Yeah.
It is a weird, partially because the predominance of drag queens are cisgender men. We give men the ability to be misogynistic again, or be coarse. And women, we still, like, oh, the Bridesmaids was such a revelation. I'm like, was it?
Yeah.
And it was.
But, like, why?
But why?
Because, no, as someone who has worked in a hair salon for 6 years, and primarily I work with women during the day, women that I wouldn't normally interact with otherwise because they're of a higher social station than I am. This is how women talk. Women talk about sex a lot.
We heard about that when Sex and the City was out too.
Yeah.
But we only have one per generation. I don't know if you've noticed.
Yeah.
We have one example. Like, we had the Golden Girls, where they actually, can you imagine? They had the extra onus of being older.
Yeah.
And then we had, like, the Sex and the City, which immediately was referenced with the Golden Girls. Like, that was immediately paralleled. And then we had Bridesmaids, which was immediately paralleled with, like, Sex and the City.
Yeah.
I don't know what we have right now. I'm not sure what our but we sort of have like the Mila Kunis sort of and Cameron Diaz playing bad moms scenarios happening in movies. Sort of a renaissance of
Girls Trip. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah, something like that. Yes.
Tiffany Haddish will make me watch anything. I can watch that woman just read the phone book.
So as a host, and as a performer, like, I mean, I guess you like all of it because you do all of it.
Yeah.
If you were to say, okay, I have to focus on one thing. I'm gonna have to decompress. I gotta pick one thing because I have all this other shit to worry about. For like, I'll give you 3 months. Let's not do a year. That seems like a lot to worry about. 3 months. You had to pick one of these disciplines. Which do you think would most naturally not make you go crazy?
Fire.
Just do fire.
Fire. No, it's not even a decision. I would drop everything and focus on fire for 3 months. Yeah. I love hosting though. And it's not just because I like hearing the sound of my own voice.
It helps.
I really like being the person that guides the experience of a room.
The facilitator.
Yeah, which is entirely my role at Lip Service, which for the uninitiated is a make-out party that happens at Gemini and Scorpio Loft. I like being the person that feels like I'm getting the party started and I'm introducing people to other people, and we all leave with something that we shared in common. Which actually, I was at a wedding. Again,
works with the counselor situation.
Yeah.
It's the people can call it the mama. People can call it the house mom. Back in the day when in the strip houses. Yeah.
Virgo life.
Yeah. Listen, you're telling me.
I was at a wedding in Georgia last week, and a bunch of us had come down from New York, and we didn't know each other, and we were all staying in the same hotel. And after the wedding, we're all hanging out in the courtyard, and I kind of just slip into host mode, and I'm like, I do if you hear my voice clap once, you hear my voice clap twice.
What was it? I guess it was undercover, and I heard you do that.
Yeah, because otherwise, like, how am I going to get everyone's attention? I'm not screaming, I'm a lady. But yeah, and
I gotta tell you my pussy joke.
Everyone be quiet so I can talk about my pussy.
And there's also you need to do that at a certain level as well, and that adds to the effect. If you're screaming about it,
then you've already lost control of the room. Yeah. But yeah, and then I had everyone play Two Truths and a Lie, and I'm not at a show. It's just kind of the way I am. So hosting comes really naturally to me for that. But like, I am so in love with fire and the science behind it. Kind of ultimately what I would like to see for my personal career trajectory is to have my own independent stage show at the Renaissance Fair. Not necessarily New York. I'd love to tour a bunch of them. But have a stage show where I talk about the science behind fire in a way that is relatable to kids. So I'm talking about things like centripetal force and physics and chemistry. And
does that all appeal to you in general? Just the idea of making things work?
Yeah, I love it. It's part of what I love about like making my own props. It's like, what is it that makes this work? But I really want to do that in a way that's entertaining, but that doesn't encourage people to go out and try it for themselves. Yeah. And is still storytelling.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Did you get did you take acting classes or storytelling classes, or are you just a naturally gabber?
I'm kind of a natural gabber. I did start before I transferred to school for fashion design. I started in theater because I was interested in historical costuming. Okay. And I thought that would be the most sensible way to do it, but I never really did a whole lot of theater. It was more of a stagecraft type. Yeah.
What do you hope to accomplish in the next, segment of your life? What's the next step for you? Do you have any idea?
Writing a stage show. I want to do something that's just big and beautiful. Like, I always had this dream of joining the circus. That may or may not happen. Probably not. But like something that is a large-scale production that makes people go, wow, that's really amazing. Something superhuman. I want to pick up Longstream Levy Wand. That's kind of like my immediate next fire goal. Picking up some circus skills. I'm dying to get on stilts. I'm being on stilts so bad. Less producing overall, I think. I want to focus more on my own individual acts and less on like having to structure shows for other people. That's kind of it. Kind of seeing where all this goes, which is what I've been doing the last 10 years. Kind of like, where's this going to go?
I mean, I think it's a very reasonable expectation to just constantly just keep growing with what you already have.
Yeah.
And fortunately, you already started in a medium that you love. which is fire,
Yeah.
and which is, as I said, the intersection between sort of a sideshow skill and burlesque as well, glamour, as it were. So the theatrics of it all.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for sitting down with me.
Thanks for having me.
It's been a lovely chat. Where can people find you on the internet or in general places if you'd like them to know if they're in the area?
Yeah, KitaSt.com.
That's
KITASTCYR.com. I am often at the Gemini and Scorpio Loft for undercover, which we're taking a winter break, but I'm there for lip service.
How do they get to How do they, there's a vetting process to that.
Yeah, for undercover, there's not really a vetting process.
They still have to know where to go.
Yeah,
because Gemini isn't technically...
Yeah, it's houseofscorpio.com. Undercover is like the intro party to House of Scorpio. That's where you can come. You don't have to be dressed
up. It's like a little mixer.
Yeah, it's a mixer. You don't have to have a +1 necessarily. Just come, learn about the events, see how your night goes.
There's a bar.
There's a bar.
It's a nice space.
It's very
There's
beautiful.
an outdoor area if it's a nice time out. We're getting to the cold months though. It's interesting.
Yeah, I don't know what's gonna happen.
Have you not been there during the winter?
I have actually, and people still go out for smokes in that outdoor space, but it's not Hangout Central the way it is in the summer. I guess we'll all have to be inside and talk to each other by the bar.
Listen.
Yeah.
Hi, this is Viktor Devonne. Thank you so much for listening to Season 2 of WEBurlesque, the podcast. Special thank you to our Patreon supporters. That is Rob, Stormageddon, Kelly, Joseph, and Michelle. If you would like to support us via Patreon, you can go to the patreon.com/WeBurlesque. It is also in the footnotes of this episode. And you can also find us on any of your favorite podcast programs. If you can, please rate and review us there. It does help us out. It shows us in the search results of all of these places. It allows us to be seen. And if you also feel like it, you can go to WeBurlesque.com/shop, that's SHOP, and you can support us that way as well. Thank you so much. Talk to you soon.